Is James Gunn's new DCU gonna end quicker than it started? The answer is, we really don't know, so let's break it down. If you haven't been keeping up with what's going on, it was just recently reported that Warner Bros. Is up for sale, and not just individual pieces of it, the entire company, which includes DC Studios. And this puts the brand new cinematic universe that was just recently created by James Gunn and Peter Safran in a very weird place, because though it's been very well received by fans so far, that might not matter. You see, everything that DC Studios has put out thus far has been greenlit by Warner Bros. Because they are the parent company. So, if another company buy DC Studios, they might have a very different plan in mind than what James Gunn and Peter Safran have, meaning that they might not even stick around, which would be the worst possible case scenario. Now, there also is the possibility that whoever does buy DC Studios just lets James Gunn and Peter Safran continue doing what they're doing and will not meddle in their business at all. And obviously, that's what we're all hoping for. This could also mean that Lanterns, Supergirl, and Clayface coming out next year could be very important in whether or not this studio continues to be able to make movies. So go see those to make sure that they know that we love this universe.
What's up, everybody? Derek Anderson, the DA. All right, everybody. Look, we might as well talk about this situation, even though we've talked about it at length in regards to James Gunn and his future with the DCU after the Warner Brothers sales goes through. This is going to be a very interesting situation because once Warner Brothers Discovery is sold, that's going to trigger a lot of movement within that company. Some people are going to survive and some people absolutely will not survive. And everybody's starting to wonder, is James Gunn going to be on the chopping block, you know, when it comes to his handling of DC? All right. Cosmic Book News has the headline: James Gunn questions his DCU future amid WBD sale. Scoop confirmed. So Matt McGloin had already reported on this, and we talked about it before, that James Gunn might be on the chopping block after the sale is done. Here's my take on that situation. Do I think James Gunn is possibly gone? Maybe, but the universe probably will stay because you don't want to reboot the entire universe. And I don't think that James Gunn would be completely gone. He would just no longer be the head of the studio. They would probably offer him some sort of a role. Hey, okay, you can be a, creative consultant or maybe even the chief creative officer. I've already said Peter Safran or some other executive probably could continue to be the head of DC Studios, or at least lord over it, while James Gunn just, hey, you work on the creative stuff and build it out and tell the stories, but you have an executive that can cut some of the bullshit off and say, all right, James, we're not going to put an orgy in this next movie that you're doing, all right? We're not going to do dumb shit like that. We want a PG-13 style all over this because we're trying to sell it to audiences. We don't need hard R anywhere in here, not in the movies, not in the TV shows, not in the animated shit, nothing. All right, we're strictly PG-13. We're going to get that going. And then maybe 4 or 5 or 6 years down the line, once we have that established, then we can start doing some hard R shit if that's what you really want to do. But I think that's basically where this thing is going, in my opinion. Look, Warner Brothers is going to sell, all right? That Park Place has it right here. Netflix is claiming they won't buy Warner Brothers Discovery. Co-CEOs reiterate, focus on organic growth over acquisitions. Yeah, Netflix can claim that, but at the same time, they've obviously thrown their hat in the ring, or at least, put a feeler out to see how much it would cost to buy Warner Brothers. Otherwise, their name wouldn't have been in the mix at all. So I don't buy this. I think they're probably saying we won't buy the entire company of Warner Brothers Discovery, but if they break it up into small entities, yeah, we might pluck one here and pluck this and pluck that and bring that into our fold. We might do that, but we're not going to buy the entire company. And I think that's ultimately what's going to happen as well. I think Warner Brothers Discovery is going to have to fragment, and then they're just going to sell off pieces here and pieces there. Geeks and Gamers also had Warner Brothers Discovery rejected the second Paramount Skydance offer in a high-stakes battle to buy Warner Brothers Discovery. So, yeah, it's getting sold. At some point in time, it's getting sold. There are people, it's never going to get sold. Nah, it's getting sold, all right? That's basically how it's going down. But let's get over to James Gunn admitting that his DCU future is in doubt. Let's listen to his little interview. I think this is with this Boba Talk guy. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Absolutely. So one thing I've been really curious about is you've referenced things like Peacemaker Season 2 and Lanterns setting up different threads and arcs. How far do these arcs go? Like, do they culminate in Man of Tomorrow, or can we expect them to go further than that?
Yes, they definitely go significantly further than Man of Tomorrow.
Okay.
So
Okay.
now, whether or not that'll be me that's able to fulfill that promise depends
Yeah,
on a lot of things in life. But yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, so that part, right, when he first came in, he's like, well, if. Like, what is it? And then he cuts himself off, right? Let's listen to it again.
yes, they definitely go significantly further than.
If I stay, right? If I stay, that's basically what I think he was about to say, but he cut himself off. He caught himself, but then he kind of just finishes it up anyway. He kind of says, yeah, it's a possibility that, I might not be the person that sees this thing all the way through.
Than Man of Tomorrow.
Okay.
So
Okay.
now, whether or not that'll be me that's able to fulfill that promise depends
Yeah.
on a lot of things in life.
Yeah, a lot of things can happen, like the sale of WB, and then they say, hey, James, you're not it, bruh. You're not the guy we want running this thing. And I don't know if James Gunn, if he's demoted down to a chief creative officer or a creative consultant, does he stick around? Does he say, you know what, you guys are demoting me. That's embarrassing to me. Deuces, I'm outro. Does James Gunn do that? Or does he say, all right, you know what, I still want to see my vision come through in some way, shape, or form. Let's go ahead and keep going. He's got 1 year left on his contract. I think that's an important part to everybody. He has 1 year left on his contract, and these next 3 projects that's coming up in 2026, all coming underneath that contract. And then he's going to start filming Man of Tomorrow in June, I think around the same time that Supergirl is releasing in theaters. He's going to start filming Man of Tomorrow next summer, 2026. And then that's going to drop in 2027. So he'll have 4 projects coming up that we know of for sure. All right. Lanterns, Supergirl, Clayface, and then Man of Tomorrow. He'll have those 4 projects to kind of look at. And they'll have to see, hey, all right, what does James Gunn got? Is he the guy that's going to shepherd this thing moving forward? Do we like his vision? Are audiences excited about what it is that they're getting? Because to me, that's bigger than whatever James Gunn is doing. The people in Hollywood, man, they don't seem like they have the discernment to be able to tell bullshit from good shit. They might be like, yeah, James, this looks great. And the audiences have already moved on and rejected it. So if that's the case, then it's like, well, let's see what the audiences think about Lanterns and Supergirl and Clayface. And if those are all highly successful projects, then it's like, okay, well, those 3 came under James Gunn and those did pretty good. Maybe he moves forward. But I think another point is that James Gunn was not the director on any of those projects as well. So they might say, yeah, like when we got away from James Gunn, who was absolutely the creative force behind Creature Commandos, Superman, and Peacemaker, when we got away from him, everything seemed to work out just fine. Maybe we don't need James Gunn. That might be interesting to look at. I don't know how this is going to go, but one thing that I do know is that the DCU did not get off to the start that a lot of us expected it to get off to, with James Gunn helming it. And so now questions are being asked. Is he the right move? Is he the guy? And listen, you can believe what you want to believe. You can have whatever feelings you want to have on it. I'm fine with that. If you think James Gunn is the guy, that's dope. I have no problem with that. If you think James Gunn should hit the bricks, I have no problem with that either. But the question that everybody has to wonder is, what does the new owner of WBD, Warner Brothers, who will then take over DC, what do they think? Because they're the ones that matter. All right. Me and you can have our disagreements, but what does the new regime, what are they going to say about James Gunn? Are they happy with what James Gunn has put out there so far? Or are they scratching their heads kind of like, I don't know if this is working. I don't know if this is the guy that we want leading a cinematic universe, because in my opinion, he's not the right man for the job. He has some good shit out there, but as far as leading an entire studio, being like the Kathleen Kennedy, he's kind of like Kathleen Kennedy in a lot of ways. He might be producing a lot of stuff, but I don't think he's striking the right tone, But anyway, look, what do y'all think about it, man? Is James Gunn's future in trouble, all right? Is his future in trouble with the DCU, or is he going to be good no matter what? Regardless of who buys it, it doesn't matter. James Gunn is locked and loaded. They're going to extend this contract, and he's going to be just fine. But how big does 2026 play into that? If 2026 goes belly up, and all 3 of those projects either don't make money or don't really, connect with the audience, Do they keep him on, or do they say, you know what? He's got 6 projects under his belt. It doesn't seem like this thing is working. Let's move on. Do you keep the same stars and the same castings, and do you keep all those folks? Do you try to find somebody to fine-tune James Gunn's storyline? Or do you just say, you know what, this guy's just not the right guy. Let's just scrap this whole thing and move on. It's going to be hard to keep the DCU around if James Gunn isn't there. It's just going to be hard. It's like, I don't know if you can do it, but we'll see. Anyway, y'all let me know what y'all think. Go ahead, jump down in the comments. Give me your thoughts and opinions on that. And thanks for watching. See you next time.